Today we're going to learn how to draw a human figure using the 7.5 head model. 7.5 head model means that the average person's head can fit into their body 7.5 times. We're going to begin by drawing a female. First thing we're going to do is draw an oval representing the head. Once you have the head, you're going to have to measure it out, and I'm going to show you two different ways to measure it out. One, I'm going to start by turning my paper sideways, and I'm going to measure the head by putting the tip of my pencil at the bottom of the oval, my thumb at the top, and I'm going to measure down 6.5 more times since I already have one here, which is the head. So I'm just going to measure down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then half of that amount. If that's a little confusing to you, then you can easily take a piece of paper and line it up with the top of the paper at the top of the oval, bottom. You're going to make a little mark and then slide it down and measure. And I'm slightly off, it looks like. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then half of that. So make sure that they are accurate. If you need to, you can even take a ruler because you want them to be the same size all the way down. Alright. So in the very first section, you have your head. In the second section, you're going to have your neck and shoulders. So if I'm drawing my neck, it's just going to come down along the side of the head. And we're drawing a female, so we're going to make a little bit softer shoulders so they're going to angle down. Right, and if you think about it, when you look at a person, you could actually see a whole nother head sitting on each side of their shoulders. So make sure that you have the shoulders wide enough. Okay. We're going to save the arms for last. So we're going to go down to the next section, which is the waist. And that includes the armpits and the breasts. Right, so if you think about it, right here is the line where your armpits come. And look at the size of a body compared to your shoulders here. The waist will tend to curve in a little bit. Right where the armpits are, that's also where the breasts are. In the fourth section are your hips and your crotch line, or where your legs separate. And we're doing a female, so it's just a natural curve. Think of it like an hourglass shape. And then right at the bottom of this line, that's where the legs separate. Right, so far we have the head in one. We have the upper body that takes up 3 sections. If you think about it then, the bottom part of the body, so the legs, will take up 3 sections. Okay, we're going to start with in the 5th section, and then halfway into the 6th, so from 5 to 5.5, you have the thighs going down to the knees. So if we were to count, this is number 5, and then halfway into 6, if you make a mark halfway, that's where your knee is going to be. We're just going to bring that whole thigh down right to the kneecap. So from 5.5 to the bottom of 7 are your calves and your ankles. So right underneath the knee, your calf is a little bit wider, and will tend to go skinnier towards the ankle. And in the 7.5 section are your feet. And we're not too concerned about getting all the toes, we just want to get direction. Goes forward. They almost look like flipper feet when you're just drawing them quickly for placement. Right. So there we have the person minus the arms, and they take up 7.5 heads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. The arms, okay, if you think about it, the very upper part of your arm is actually one head. So one head from your armpit here would have your elbow, or where your arm bends, come right at the top of your hips. Your lower part of your arm, or your forearm, is also one head, and that goes right to the bottom of your hip. So right where your crotch line is your wrist, and then your hands come mid-thigh. So your arms are that long. If you were to bend your arm, so let's say your arm was bent and your hand was resting on your hip, you would still measure. So you have your armpit here, and you're going to measure one head from your armpit. So I'm going to measure the size of my head and go from my armpit to where my arm would bend. That's one head. And then I'm going to do the same thing again for my lower part of my arm. So where my arm bent, okay, and where it's going to touch, it's my lower part of my arm. And then my hand would bend over. So even if your arm was sticking straight out to the side, you're going to measure each section as one head. The hand itself is roughly 3/4 of your head. Okay, so we just did a female. Okay, females will tend to have more of an hourglass shape, more of a thinner waist, wider hips, softer shoulders, so angled down. A male, okay, is the same measurement. The difference is males will have tendency to have broader shoulders. Their waist will either be more angular or a little bit straighter, and their hips are straight. So you don't really get a curve in there with men. Their breast line is the same, only a little bit flatter. If you wanted to get their muscles, you would just go right down the center. Alright, so go ahead and try a male yourself on the other side of the paper, following the same 7.5 heads, only make it a little bit more masculine.